Hello, everyone. ESBR Boxing. We are back. Myself and my esteemed and distinguished colleague, co-colleague on this show, Paul Kelly. Paul, how you doing? We'll come to you actually. We'll ask you how you're doing in a second. But what we've got three fights. Obviously, a weekly preview that we always had to do. Two locations, three fights, one Paul Kelly. I'm not going to give away the first fight, but I will be introducing the first fight. So, firstly, Paul, I'm just going to come to you and ask you how you're doing and your general thoughts on these three fights, please.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. Great to be back another week, another video. Seems like every week I enjoy doing these videos with yourself and previewing the upcoming action. Some fights that potentially might have slipped under the radar that we didn't perhaps know were going on this weekend. But yeah, now looking forward to getting stuck into these three fights, as you said, with yourself.
Excellent. So again, it's on me to obviously go through the first fight. The first fight is taking place. We're not going to do them. We're doing, I suppose, on size order rather than chronological order. Obviously, we're looking at Friday and Saturday. We're spanning two different events here. But the first fight we're going to talk about is in the US, Stockton Arena, which unsurprisingly is in Stockton, and it is world action, WBO world middleweight action to be precise. Now, I've been criticised on previous videos for getting this guy's name wrong and pronouncing it wrong and not giving it the respect it deserves. So I'll probably do that again today. But I'm going to endeavour not to do it. We've got Zhanibek, Alimkhanuly, is fighting is fighting against Stephen Butler. Now we've got to do a tail of the tape here, obviously, as we always do. But I'll just go through Zhanibek's record first and foremost. 13-0, obviously he's the champion with 8 KOs. Height 5'11 and a half, reach 71 and a half inches. I suppose fight fans for the UK will know most of his recent victories, which was against Danny Dignam and against Denzel Bentley, a UD victory over Bentley. That was relatively recent, actually, it was back in November. And then before that, obviously, Dignam was a KO victory, second round KO. Other victories, other name on there that's noticeable, I suppose, is Hassan Dam, eighth round KO, came through of him as well. So he's obviously coming to this, I suppose, with a reputation of being heavy-handed. The champion, Stephen Butler, is a Canadian fighter, 27 years old, 5'11 and a half, same height, 75-inch reach. He's got a record of 32, 3 and 1. Those 26 KOs of his victories, but of the losses, his three losses, he has been stopped three times. He was stopped against Murata, who obviously people will know as fighting Triple G, a guy called Jose de Jesus Macias, as well, and a guy called Brandon Cook. So losses to get maybe to fighters there that aren't as distinguished as Zhanibek. But he comes into this fight with a victory over Joshua Connolly, and also a victory over Mark DeLuca. So what I'm going to ask you, Paul, here is these questions. One, do you see this being a routine victory for Zhanibek? Two, do you see it being a stoppage victory for Zhanibek? And three, is this a harder fight for Zhanibek than Bentley?
Oh, thanks for your very eloquent breakdown there, Elliot. First and foremost, it's a fight that I expect Zhanibek Alimkhanuly. I'm going to call him that.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Alimkhanuly. So for anyone giving Elliot grief about the surname, hopefully I've done it justice
One of
there.
us, one out of two is not bad.
If not, let us know anyway. But yeah, no, Zhanibek, he's looked brilliant, hasn't he? Really, 13-0, 8 knockouts. I think Bentley surprised a lot of people against Zhanibek, although he got beat in the end. It was probably closer than perhaps all of us expected. Did that show some chinks in the armor of Zhanibek? I don't know. I think Denzel Bentley's kind of gone up levels recently. He looks above British level that he's fighting at anyway at the minute. Um, I do think this will be a routine victory for Zhanibek, to be quite honest with you. I think although he won the last fight via decision, I think he'll get back on a knockout streak here. I can't get those three knockouts you mentioned there. Butler's been stopped three times. Can't get them out of my head. Although he himself has a big knockout ratio, obviously. Um, he'll probably come for it early on, thinking I'm not going to outpoint this guy. He holds all the cards. I may as well go for it. That could be his downfall in this fight. So yes, to answer the second question, I think it'll be a Zhanibek knockout, probably in the mid rounds, rounds 5 to 8, something like that. And third question, is this a tougher fight than Bentley? No, I don't think it is. I actually don't think it is. Now looking at Denzel Bentley and where he's gone on and looking at what he did recently there a few weeks back, one round demolition job and stuff, I think now that Denzel Bentley, he's shown he can kind of hang at this European fringe world level. So I think actually that this probably on paper is a little bit easier for Zhanibek, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, I fully expect him to come through here.
No, I totally agree, Paul. I think it's going to be a stoppage victory. I'd go rounds as well. And I do think it's actually an easier fight, to be honest with you, than Bentley. But staying, I suppose, with our theme, which is WBO World Title Action theme. So WBO want to sponsor us. Feel free to send money this way for this WBO edition. But we're going to come to you, I believe, for fight that's taking place on that undercard or maybe co-main of that event as well. Paul, please take it away.
You're indeed correct, my friend. Obviously, Jason Maloney is fighting Vincent Astrolabio. And you are correct again in saying that the vacant, WBO bantamweight title is on the line here. After Naoya Inoue, of course, moved up to super bantamweight and will be fighting Stephen Fulton. Those belts have become fragmented. Maloney and Astrolabio here gonna fight for the vacant strap. Quick tail of the tape. Jason Maloney's 25-2 with 19 KOs. 32 years old, orthodox fighter, 5'5" and has a 65-inch reach, of course, and he's from Australia. Astrolabio is 18-3. He's 26 years old. Also orthodox fighter. Also stands at 5'5" and has half an inch reach advantage on Maloney at 65.5 inches, and he's from the Philippines. Now, as you mentioned there, world title action. Decent fight again on paper. This looks like a decent card. We've got going on in Stockton. Maloney, of course, we know who he is. You look at his 2 losses on his record. Yes, he's got 2 defeats, but they're to Emmanuel Rodriguez and Naoya Inoue, of course, no. And he went 6 or 7 rounds with Inoue, I think, before getting stopped, which is a lot longer than some people lost. He's also got a few decent wins on his record there. Maybe not some standout names, but credible opponents nonetheless. You look at Astrolabio and you think you maybe not have heard of him as much as Maloney. I think I perhaps have, definitely heard more about Maloney. But if you look at Astrolabio, his standout win came last year, where he beat Guillermo Rigondo via unanimous decision, knocked him down in the 8th round of that fight as well, a 10-rounder. Probably seen as a bit of an upset. However, Rigondo maybe on the slide a little bit. I like this fight. I like this fight. I make, without looking at any odds or anything, I do make Maloney a slight favourite here. Um, I think that I'll come to you in a second, Elliot. I do think that, I expect him to win this fight from what I've seen of Jason Maloney. But my question to you, Elliot, is, well, of course, well, I'll come to you first and say this is Maloney's third chance at becoming a world champion. Is it third time lucky for the Aussie? And if it is, how does he win this fight? Tell me.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, first of all, thank you again, Paul, for the technical breakdown. I lean with actually what you were saying there. I make Maloney the slight favourite here. Even though obviously Labio's got that victory over Rigondeaux, but then Rigondeaux's 40 plus, I believe now, isn't he? So I mean, at the same time, you can say good victory. Don't get me wrong, good victory against a tough fighter, but I'd still have Maloney. There's probably, I mean, I watched Maloney versus Inoue. Thought he equipped himself quite well, to be fair, for portions of that fight. So I do think Maloney will get this done. Third time of asking. I think it'll be by, well, I was going to say KO. They don't want to commit to it. I think, yeah, I think if it could be a KO, yeah. I think if it were to be a KO, it'd be kind of late, somewhere between sort of, well, somewhere 8 plus, maybe 9 to 12, somewhere in there if he gets it done. But I do expect him to win this, yeah. Frankly.
Yeah, very interesting. I think you were about to put your neck on the line there and say you're dead, the knockout's 100% coming, but I do have to concur. I think if the knockout does come for me, it would be later on in the fight. I could see it being competitive in the first half of the fight, and maybe Maloney taking over in the later rounds. Obviously, he's got a big KO percentage, as does Astrolabio. But yeah, I favour Maloney. I would probably edge towards points just to be on the safe side, but a stoppage, as you mentioned there, from rounds 9, 10 to the end of the fight wouldn't overly surprise me, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, a good fight and definitely one I'm looking forward to. Now, the third and final fight we're going to be looking at here for this week's weekly preview actually comes the night before on Friday, the 12th of May, and we've got some York Hall action. 2 British fighters throwing down in the famous York Hall WBO European Cruiserweight title on the line, not to be obviously mixed with the proper European title. It's a bit of a shit belt, but anyway. Elizarro is fighting Hosea Burton. 2 names that British fight fans certainly know a little bit about. Quick tail of the tape. Elizarro is 15-0 with 6 KOs. Orthodox fighter, he's 30 years of age, and Hosea Burton, probably the more well-known fighter over the years, is 28-3. 12 KOs, 34 years old. He's huge. He's 6'4". He's also an orthodox fighter. So yeah, as I mentioned, Friday night action here at the York Hall. I'm sure Stoddy will be there, ringside. But yeah, you looked at Elizaro and he's looked pretty, he's looked kind of flawless. He's done what he's had to do in recent fights. He's undefeated. Doesn't have a huge knockout ratio, but he did win last time out against Dex Spellman, who can be kind of a bit of a bogeyman. Um, Burton's three losses, on the other hand, you look at him and you think, has he got frailties to the chin? However, he did lose to Dan Aziz, which is no mean feat. Richard Bolotniks and Frank Buglioni way back for the British title at light heavyweight. I don't know if you remember that fight, Elliot. Burton had won arguably every single round before getting stopped in the 11th or 12th, whenever it was. I really like this fight. I don't know about you. I'm a big fan of this fight. I think it's quite competitive on paper. Again, no clue who's the favorite. Haven't even looked at odds or anything. But yeah, it's a fight that intrigues me. Burton beating a higher level of fighter, I believe. Liam Conroy, Shinkin. Former British light heavyweight champion himself, obviously a cruiserweight now. Bit of a step up for Zorro. My question to you, Elliot, is I think it's fair to say this is the toughest fight of Zorro's career. Maybe not the toughest fight of Burton's career on paper, but will Zorro rise to the occasion here on the step up, or do you fancy Burton potentially to come again and claim another big standout win here?
Firstly, that was a brilliant breakdown, Paul. Thank you very much for sharing that. I don't know, actually, to be honest with you. I like this fight. Like, when you were saying you like this fight, I actually like this fight as well. Like, weirdly, like everything you said is true. Like, I was looking at it and go, well, Burton's obviously lost a better opposition. Of course he has. But then Zorro's got an impressive record as well. So sort of Preston is undefeated. So could I see, basically put it this way, this is one thing I will say that will happen into my mind. I see it going 10 rounds. That's where I'm going with this. So I see it going points either way. But to be perfectly honest with you, like I genuinely see this as a kind of 50-50 matchup. I can't really pick it. I mean, I would maybe lean slightly towards Burton just for the experience factor and the guys he's been in with. But other than that, but equally, I could quite easily see Zorro. I could see Zorro outpointing him as well. But to be perfectly honest with you, but if I had to put my neck on the line, I'd say Burton points. But equally, if Zorro comes in points, I'd see that as good. The only way my neck will be, my head will be off the block is if a KO happens to one man either way. But I think it'd be points either way, leaning slightly towards Burton.
Yeah, I for one think this is going the distance as well. To be honest with you, I think the frailties we have seen with Burton have. I think he's been caught a few times and has been stopped, obviously. Um, but he's been beaten with big punchers, renowned punchers. I don't think he necessarily has a weak chin or anything like that. Obviously, fighting up a cruiserweight now rather than light heavyweight, you never know. He might have been weight trained and stuff like that. Zorro's not a huge puncher either, so and Burton obviously isn't as well. I think this. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is destined to go to the judges' scorecards. And you know what? I had a sneaky suspicion. I thought you might have lent with Zorro, and I was going to be like, happy days. We're disagreeing. I'm going with Burton, but I do agree. We're in agreement here. Elliot, I'm going with Hosea Burton here. Be interested to see the odds closer to the fight night. But yeah, I think Hosea Burton here. Wouldn't surprise me if he was an underdog. Just given just given the kind of hype around Zorro and stuff now as well. Um, but I think Hosea Burton could win this on points. I think he's a brilliant boxer. He's shown in the past, and yeah, provided he isn't past his best, I think we could be in for a Hosea Burton unanimous decision or points victory here for sure.
No, Paul, as we say, with three fights, we've gone through it. We've whistled stop through it, but we've given some great, I think, detail as well there for people. Obviously, we try and keep this short and sweet, but also give you some nourishment. Check out our content. Obviously, over fight week, we'll have various other things. Obviously, Paul, man who he often mentions the odds because he is one of the faces of the betting show. And he's landed some ones recently. Anna Babic's last. Paul called that one. We've got interviews, obviously, with fighters. We will have, I suppose, there'll be fight night content as well. Like you said, Stotty will be there at York Hall. Mr. York Hall, they've started to call in. There might be a commemorative bench or a plaque. We know when he decides to eventually hang it up. But yeah, check out all that stuff. Let us know whether you think we're talking nonsense about this fight. Let us know whether you think we're talking actual sense. And give us some compliments. Let me know if I pronounced the Alimkhanuly's name wrong or not. And yeah, we'll go from there. But Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for being here and talking through the fights this week. And I look forward to joining you again next week.
Top man, mate. All the best.